when my wife and I had gotten together, she moved from Chicago to Memphis, and a friend of hers called and said, "You moved from Chicago to Memphis? What's up?" She said, "Well, there's this guy." Anyway, she starts questioning Terry about me with all kinds of things about my career, and then she gets to the question, "Has he got any money?" Terry said, "Well, he's got a beautiful home and a nice boat and a nice airplane, but I don't know if he's really rich or not. But I will say he is a billionaire in friends."
Wow.
I said, "Terry, that's the greatest compliment I've ever been given."
Ladies and gentlemen, the goal in your life is not to figure out how to be comfortable in your mental prisons, but to realize that you have the keys to set yourself free.
Hey everybody, welcome to How to Be Mesmerizing. It's Tim Shurr, and today we have another extraordinary guest. Don Hutson is with us. Don, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
So I am so honored that you are with us today. So for those of you who have not heard of Don Hutson, he is another mesmerizing, incredible human being. And he is a #1 best-selling author. He's written so many amazing books like The 1-Minute Entrepreneur, The 1-Minute Negotiator, and he's won so many awards and Hall of Fame speaker. And you know, you think of a Fortune 500 company and he's worked with them. And so Don, I'm super excited that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Tim. It's my pleasure. And thank you for your overstatement in describing me.
Yeah, it's an understatement. So he's also humble. So you got to love the guy. All right. So here we go. So Don, what would you say is the secret to success?
The secret to success. Well, I could give you a long, drawn-out philosophical definition, but I'm gonna choose to go with one word. And the one word that I think is so critical in gaining success in your chosen endeavor is discipline. So many people know what to do. They get the training that tells them how to do it, and then they don't discipline themselves to put those ideas to work. And that's a huge miscalculation. So I think the word is discipline. It makes me think, Tim, of Henry David Thoreau's definition of motivation. He said, motivation is the pull of anticipation and the push of discipline. Great definition. Because we've got to have the anticipation. Those are the goals we set and the objectives we have in place, our vision. But the push of discipline is what really makes it happen. That means we've got to be able to have the stick-to-itiveness, the perseverance, to make sure we keep on keeping on, even when times get tough and we experience adversity or rejection or something that's a big turnoff to most people. Cabot Robert used this to describe character as the ability to carry out a worthwhile resolution long after the mood in which you made it has left you. See, these are the things that apply to the disciplinary forces within us. The only way we're going to get passionate about something is we got to be so disciplined that we're going to get on with it.
Yeah. That really is. You got to have both. Because people will get excited, but then they don't follow through, or they don't follow through because they haven't gotten excited, right?
That's
they haven't figured out what the real benefit is, or you know, in most cases, they have in between their anticipation and their discipline is a belief, and often the belief is it won't work out for me anyway. I'm not good enough. I don't have the right connections. I don't have enough time or money, you know, and any other excuse that everybody has to deal with. So how do you deal with those?
Let me give you a quick equation, Tim. I may have mentioned to you that I'm doing a lot of coaching now for people who want to write their books. And I created a formula. People want to know, how do I know if I'm going to be successful in my attempt to write a book? And I said, well, let me give you a little formula you can think about. And the formula is that vision, meaning we've got a clarified vision for the book we want to write, the working title, the chapters that'll be in it, and that sort of thing. We've got a clarified vision. So it's vision plus skill. We've got to have the ability to write, and we've got to do our homework to learn the skills of good composition, good writing principles, and there are many other skills that we want to tie into that, everything from publishing knowledge and things of that nature, because we've got so many decisions to make when you write a book. Mm-hmm. The third factor, we got vision plus skill plus discipline. And that is what we've been talking about. That's our willingness and our ability to stay on course, to keep with it, to create some passion, to get the fire in the belly to keep it going. So it's vision plus skill plus discipline times passion. And that passion point is what is absolutely critical to get us off our butts and into the flow of getting done what we know we've got to get done to make it happen. So passion, some people call it fire in the belly. But I think when we have a deviation between our vision for a project and our current assessment of where we're starting, where are we right now, that deviation between those 2 points creates some, what I call great potential through constructive tension. Constructive tension is not being stressed out. It's a constructive sort of tension that keeps us fired up, keeps the passion in flow, gets the momentum going, and that's what really determines, or we say now, equals your outcome. Mm-hmm. So vision how did you plus skill plus discipline times the passion equals outcome. Now it's true for writing a book, but it's also true for creating a training program or for advancing your entrepreneurial venture in some manner. So it's a good formula that works in a lot of arenas.
Yes. How did you develop your discipline? I mean, were you always disciplined and fired up?
Oh man, hey, the human tendency, I'm not going to say humans are lazy, but sometimes procrastination is the natural thing. And we've got to make sure that we understand that procrastination is normally our enemy. We've got to take charge, and we've got to be disciplined enough to follow through. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of sales training, and I love to ask people in my audiences, what is your follow through or follow up reputation? Well, people think about that, and they look up, and they're considering it. And the fact is, not that many people have a perfect follow-up reputation. Are we going to do exactly what we said we're going to do? I'll be back in touch with you before noon on Thursday. Well, hey, if it's 1:30 on Thursday, we broke our promise, didn't we? So that's the issue of following through and being disciplined and casting aside the tendency to procrastinate. Let's create some positive momentum. You've heard when things are going good, they tend to get better. Mm-hmm. Some people say, well, yeah, maybe, but when things are going bad, they usually get worse. Well, that's the glass is half empty approach. And we can't look at it that way. Yeah. I'm sorry, one of my fans is calling, Tim. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Anyway, I love
creating that momentum and keeping it going so we don't procrastinate.
Well, I love the language that you used. What is your follow-up reputation? Because if you can find the right words, you might be able to push those right emotional buttons. And I love the idea that, you know, because people are always talking about following up and following through, because that's how you keep your promises. It's how you build trust. It's how you strengthen the relationship. And if you think about it as it's a reputation, as opposed to something that you're just not good at doing, you know, then it shifts it. Well, I want to have a good reputation, and that can shift it for you. So I think that I love how you said that. You know, it's a great reputation. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, and everybody that's listening, I strongly recommend you go to donhutson.com. That's HUTSON.com, and watch his videos, because he has some beautiful free training on his website. And I got lost in them. I was just one after another after another. It's better than YouTube. And so I was going through, and you talked about principles from your book, The 1 Minute Negotiator. And I thought that would be a fun topic to talk about, because you are a global expert in negotiations and training people to be more effective negotiators. So could you give us kind of the essence of that 1 minute negotiator and help people understand what negotiating is and what negotiophobia is?
All right. Well, a couple of remarks to set the stage for this, Tim. Number
Okay.
one is, let's all admit that we negotiate every single day.
Mhm.
Maybe it's on what day and time we're going to get our dry cleaning ready, have our dry cleaning ready for pickup. Or maybe it's something else that we're purchasing that we end up wanting to negotiate the price of, or somebody's wanting to negotiate with us on something we might be selling. We have negotiations that take place all week long.
Mhm.
See, Tim, you're about 50 years of age. You're at the 50-yard line, man. You got another 50 years of life, and you know what's going to be happening? You're going to be negotiating every single day. So how smart would it be to go ahead and devote 10 hours of training to negotiation skills and get it down, man, where for the next 50 years, you're going to make an extra $1 million because you're a more proficient negotiator.
Yep.
See, we all need to seek negotiations training. Now, I'm going to give you a little quick course today for the people who are tuning in on your show.
Okay.
And the first thing I would say is, when you feel a negotiations coming on, get your head in the game. Don't wing your way through, especially a very important high-dollar negotiation. Now, if it's a simple little deal, don't burn up 10,000 brain cells on a $50 deal, okay?
Mhm.
But if it's a big deal, make sure you are prepared. That's something most people overlook. Preparation for negotiation is key. So what do you know about the person you're going to be negotiating with, and what do you think their agenda is, and what have you learned about them prior to now that's going to enable you to make some predictions about their stance, their positioning, and how they feel about this particular negotiation that's coming up? That anticipation can help us be better prepared and more confident going into a negotiation. Now, when I say get our head into the game, we've got to also think about, what do we know about the temperament of this individual? Because there are really 4 negotiation styles. There's avoidance, accommodation, competition, and collaboration.
Mm.
Competition is where most people think about negotiations. In fact, a lot of people in my audience will say, how many of you have ever read a book on negotiation skills? And I might get, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 hands, not ever very many. Most people push back on learning negotiation skills because they see it as confrontational. They see it as unpleasant. They don't even want anything to do with negotiations.
Yeah.
So they've never learned the skills. Terrible miscalculation. We need to learn some negotiation skills. So if people want to compete, that's a win-lose situation. That means everybody's going for every morsel they can get, and that can be a very tough negotiation. But I say, if you're going to end up negotiating with a competitive negotiator, you better know how to do it yourself, or you're going to get your clock cleaned. So
and they'll probably respect you more too. You know, if they come back at you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got to have our act together in terms of our ability to negotiate in different ways. My personal style of negotiation that I prefer is collaboration. That's win-win. We hear so much about the importance of having win-wins with your customers today and that sort of thing. Some people say, well, I'll never see this person again after this deal is done. I want to get every dollar I can get. Well, that ends up being competitive, and just know where you are and what your stance is going to be and what kind of skills are appropriate for that approach.
Yeah.
So collaboration. I might start off collaborating in the beginning of a negotiation and have a good positive win-win spirit. But if I see somebody trying to nail my hide to the wall,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go into the competition mode because they're trying to compete with me. I'm going to protect myself and protect my turf, and I'm going to do everything I can to compete with them. And many times when you stand up to them and they see that you're going to compete and you're obviously competent in that arena, many times they'll back off and become more collaborative, which was my goal in the beginning anyway.
Yes.
So those are a few tips. Negotiophobia, you mentioned, that's a fear of negotiation based on a lack of skill and an inability to develop solid strategies. And if people are not trained in negotiations, they think, I don't want to negotiate. It's confrontational, it's unpleasant, I don't want to even get involved in that. And that can be a catastrophic mindset. Just learn the skills and be good at it. Be smooth, be confident, protect your turf, collaborate when you can, compete when you have to. Sometimes you want to avoid, sometimes you want to accommodate. And all of these are outlined in depth in the 1 Minute Negotiator book.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved how you, and it's in the videos as well that you have on your website. I love how you map it out with how most people are in avoidance. But think about this, not just in a business setting, but also in your marriage. You know, couples are always negotiating and having different viewpoints. And, you know, if you focus on having a win-win outcome, then you're more collaborative, because you don't want to be competing with your spouse. That's going to lead to lose-lose.
That's right. And also, if you get into avoidance and you do not address issues that need to be addressed, that can have a very negative impact on relationships as well.
Yeah, so that book is great for leadership as well. So anybody that's a leader or manager should read that 1 Minute Negotiator, because most people are either avoidant or they are come across as aggressive or what we would call competitive, right? And so you want to always be seeking that collaborative approach, but understand how to be competitive. So if, like you said, Don, if you meet somebody that is, you know, has that agenda, if you match where they're at, they will often appreciate you and then back off because they respect you. Oh, someone who's worthy of a good battle. Okay, you and I might actually get along together. I'm going to work with this relationship. Where if they see that you're avoiding or you're not doing that, you know, and it seems like you keep wanting to give them a hug, you know, they're going to take you down.
Yep.
So
Right.
I love having the flexibility of knowing what to do and how to do it. And that is what you're saying is truly is just educating yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, early on in your career, you talked about, well, I know that you got into sales and then you ended up becoming like the number one person in a big sales corporation. And then you also told me you had the opportunity of selling tickets to those seminars, those great seminars where they would have Zig Ziglar and Robert Schuller and all these extraordinary speakers come in. Tell me a little bit about those experiences and how you ended up being number one in sales, or what you learned from those selling tickets to those seminars.
What a great training ground that was, Tim. I was 21 years old, fresh out of college, and I went to work for a guy named Dick Gardner, and he had a company called the National Association of Sales Education. We promoted seminars, most of them a one-day seminar with 4 speakers. Mm-hmm. And we used some of the names you mentioned and many others, Charlie Tremendous Jones and Cabot Robert and Bill Gove, as well as Zig Ziglar and many, many others on a number of occasions. But for me, right out of college, it was a fabulous opportunity because, number one, I had the guts enough to take on a job at straight commission. Number two, I had the great good fortune of having Dick Gardner as my trainer and my boss, who really taught me a lot. But for about 3 years, I simultaneously got speaking experience and sales experience, because we'd move into a city I'd never been to, and I'd hit the street and start calling on all the sales organizations. I would talk the boss into giving me 30 minutes on his sales meeting, where I would talk about not only my guest talk, that was what we called a free sample of a little bit of what we have a lot of coming on the date of the seminar. And then I would give that 30-minute talk and wrap up with a little 5-minute commercial at the end of, here's the seminar, here's who we're bringing in. And by the way, your company says they'll pay half for you if you want to sign up. And we circulate a sheet of paper and they check yes or no. Anyway, I probably did, those were my 1,500 speeches right out of the box, right out of college, before I ever earned a traditional speaking fee. So I was getting sales experience and speaking experience, and it was enormously valuable for me. And I learned so much from Dick Gardner, so I offer him great credit. And after a couple of years, I started my own company doing a similar thing, and it worked out great. We were just blowing and going, and I was very pleased with the way that progress was taking place. So I was lucky, and I met some of the greatest people. These speakers, every one of them had a different sort of positive impact on me. So I was very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get a break like that and it is just extraordinary. Other times you've got to create your own magic, right? And create your own breaks and
That's right.
go to those seminars and reach out to people and see how you can add value. I mean, that's how, through a series of events and adding value and just appreciating people and seeing what I could do, to help somebody else, it goes a long way. And then they start opening doors, and then you start meeting more people and you create your own
That's
breaks.
Right. And also, I want to clarify something, Tim. When I got started in that business, I was incompetent and scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
So some people might think, hey, man, you're Don Hutson. You've done over 6,000 speeches. I bet there's a piece of cake for you. Well, it wasn't. I was ready to throw up every time I got out of my car to go in to give a talk. It was horrible. But
Yeah.
Dick Gardner helped me work through it, and I got pretty good. And, after about 3 years, I started doing speeches for a fee.
Yeah.
And that was my entree onto the speaking circuit. And then I had the magic of the 1970s, where I had about 6 or 8 wonderful things happen to me, just good break after good break after good break. And I took advantage of those breaks, and it kind of moved me up. And by the mid 70s, I was one of the busiest speakers in America.
Yeah. Yeah. That's extraordinary.
Then I kept it going through the 80s and the 90s. And of course, the 2000s have been different, but still rewarding.
Yes, absolutely. So let's break this down a little bit. So first of all, thank you for sharing that part, because a lot of times people, they see how successful you are now, but they forget that you didn't start out that way. Right. So I love the idea of,
especially when a young speaker finds out I did 1,500 freebies before I ever got a fee. That's called paying your dues.
1,500.
So I like to ask these young speakers the very pointed question: have you paid your dues yet? And if not, why not?
Yeah.
Speak at every Rotary Club or service club you can. Do anything you can, even if it's a freebie, to get the great value that comes from experience.
Yes. And continue to do that. I remember every once in a while I'd have to get rid of my ego, if I'd think, well, I don't want to I've been doing this for years and to go and do another pro bono event, I'm like, wait a second, this is about adding value and creating connections and building relationships. And then I'd get over myself and then I would go do it. And then it would be great.
Tim, I've been in this business for a half a century and I still do freebies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the most joyous things in my life is doing work for charities and doing the occasional freebie.
Yeah.
So, for profit-making corporations, I'll negotiate to get my fee.
Yes.
But for others, I'll help out where I can. So that adds a meaningful part to your life. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So obviously one of your first mentors that had a giant influence on you was Dick. So do you remember, I know you do, a couple of pointers or things that he taught you that allowed you to become, so successful?
Well, Zig's first talk that he promoted, and I met him in 68. His first talk was entitled Biscuits, Fleas, and Pump Handles. Everybody thought that's the weirdest speech title I've ever heard in my whole life. What could that be about? But he had a great story about the biscuits, and a great story about the fleas, and a great story about the pump handles.
Yeah. And
that was a fabulous motivational speech about just release your brakes, let it go, get on with life, pour on the afterburner, man, get it going. And it was a highly motivational speech. And he had an LP record and an album. And I got one of those records and I darn near wore it out listening to Zig over and over, and had a real impact on me. And then we became very close friends because in the 70s, we had a client called the American Sales Training Association. And I'm going to say from 73 to 78, something like that. I bet we did 75 meetings a year for that company.
Oh,
and
wow.
we do 2.5 hours each, me and Zig and Cavett Robert, who founded our National Speakers Association.
Wow.
One would do morning, one afternoon, and one early evening. And we'd have, a lunch break and a dinner break and all that sort of thing. But it was a jam-packed day, a long day for the attendee. But boy, I tell you, all three of us gave them a lot of value. And I've heard Zig so many times, being on the stage with him 300 or 400 times, and Cavett Robert. I learned from them, but they might have learned a couple of things from me too. I don't know. But it was a fabulous opportunity. And then, of course, we started doing the positive thinking rallies. Those were the big 15,000 people in big arenas. And those were fabulous events with Paul Harvey, Norman Vincent Peale, Robert Schuller, Art Linkletter, Ira Hayes. We had some great speakers, famous people in those days. And I had the opportunity to be sharing the stage with them. And that was another thing that represented a catapult in my career to take me to the next level.
Yeah.
But Zig was wonderful. I just talked to Tom, his son, last week, who we have a nice relationship with, and great young man. And boy, he's working hard and doing well, trying to keep the Ziglar name going. But they're still very much in business at Ziglar.com.
Yes.
And a lot of things going on there.
I pull my picture off the shelf.
There you go.
See that? Hanging out with Zig. That was a long time ago.
Zig used to fly with me in my airplane to some of the engagements from time to time. And he became a pretty good, I won't say a seasoned pilot, but somebody who wasn't, he became really interested in what was going on up there in the cockpit. But, so I've learned so many things from Zig for so many years. I can't say enough about his positive influence and his great passion for Christianity. And he's just a wonderful guy.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you would agree wholeheartedly that, the people that you hang around with have a huge influence on the person that you become. And so you're hanging around these amazing people, and they're hanging around you, and that has had a tremendous impact on your life.
When I wrote the 1 Minute Entrepreneur with Ken Blanchard, there's a line in there, and a lot of this material we kind of came up with together. And of course, we got research from other areas and all that sort of thing. But we use the line that as we go through life, we are generally becoming the average of the 5 people closest to us. So be careful who you hang out with. You mentioned ego earlier too, Tim. I got to tell you a quote from Blanchard that was so good, because he's a very humble man and just the greatest human being. But he said, remember, just because you've got a good title or you've done something well, don't let your ego eat your brain.
Eat your brain.
Great line. How many times have we seen people who let their ego eat their brains?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes, I can't remember who I was telling this to, but ego, I heard someone say it stands for edging God out.
That might be a Zig original.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. So with all the experience, you've told some pretty amazing stories, and you've traveled around the world. You've done all these amazing things. What is one of the coolest adventures that you've ever experienced in life?
Wow. Well, I rappelled the Great Wall of China one time.
What? I didn't know you could even do that.
Well, I was on a group. I joined the Society of International Business Fellows when I was doing a good bit of speaking internationally. And we took this really first-class trip, 32 people without spouses, mostly men, and we went around the world in 3 weeks. Well, wow. We spent most of our time in China, but everything we did was first class. We had panels of business leaders and politicians all the way through China. One noteworthy one was in Hong Kong. We had a panel, and one of the panel members was Sir Gordon Wu. Do you know that name? Mm-mm. His last name spelled W-U. Sir Gordon Wu had been, of course, knighted and was a great individual who had made billions of dollars in the real estate business in Hong Kong and Shanghai and a lot in America as well. But after the panel, he gave a 45-minute speech. And he was introduced to give his speech, and got up and he loosened his tie and he took off his suit coat, put it down over there. He said, "I am excited about being with you people today from America." He said, "I love America." And he said, "Please don't think I'm being egotistical, but I know and understand your Constitution better than most of you in this room today. So we had 32 or 3 Americans sitting there thinking, well, this guy's, obviously very pro-America. He said, that's the reason that I came to America and went to Princeton University, because I had admiration for what I'd studied about the American system. He said, in fact, I'm so impressed with the American system and my love for the United States of America that I named my firstborn son, Thomas Jefferson Wu.
Oh, wow.
I got chills when he said that. And he proceeded to give a passionate speech about free enterprise and unlimited opportunity and all those things that so many people today, we see all these idiots out here that are got opportunities whizzing by their heads and they prefer to do something stupid. And there's so many people today who just don't get it. Relish in the opportunity of free competitive enterprise, the opportunity to be the best we can be. God created us in his image. He gave us the ability to learn and grow and decide and act as superior beings. And then we don't even do the things we have the capabilities to do. How sad is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as you might realize, I'm a passionate conservative American.
Well, I love it. I love the, what all the good that this country stands for. And, that's why we attract some of the most amazing human beings, in the world to this country, because of the opportunities that we have. And because of the age of the internet and the things that we're going through, I'm hoping that it continues to bring us all closer and closer together, and we continue having that collaborative spirit. Yeah. So I don't, Abraham Lincoln once said the best way to predict the future is to create it. So I'm not hoping that it works out. I'm taking up the torch and guiding people in that direction, as you have been for so many years.
That's great, Tim. I'm proud of you for doing it, man.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, that had to be one of the most amazing experiences ever, traveling around the world like that and having those first class experiences. That's just extraordinary. So,
another thing that I would add to your question, my international travels, about 5 years ago, my wife and I, she's also a speaker and author, and Terry and I had the opportunity to serve on the faculty of the Middle East Leadership Academy.
Ooh.
We had about 40 young people from the Middle East, a mix from different countries, and a lot of them came there with a shield. They were playing everything close to the vest, not knowing exactly what was going on. And then they found out that all of the instructors agreed to come over there for the good of mankind, and we spoke without a fee for this forum with these 40 or so young people. Well, by the end of the 2.5 weeks of curriculum, everybody's hugging everybody. Mm-hmm. And these young people are fighting over which one of the instructors they can have dinner with and breakfast with and all that sort of thing. They held us with great admiration, and they realized that we're over there just hoping to do some good, hoping to help. And boy, they made a decision to learn and grow from that experience. Most of them were well educated, a lot of them educated in the United States. And they learned, they grew, they asked the right questions, and they appreciated us for being there. But my wife to this day says, and I concur, it's one of the most rewarding experiences of our life.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. That's what it's all about, right? So one of the comments that you made before we actually started recording is something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it was your comment about, what made you really stand out, being a billionaire in friendships. You want to say that again, just so
Sure.
It comes from you? Everybody listen.
When Terry and I were dating, and just right before we got married, she had moved to Memphis from Chicago. Now, she lived in a beautiful apartment on Michigan Avenue, downtown Chicago. And she's from Chicago. So to be able to sell her on moving to Memphis was a pretty tough sell. But anyway, she moved to Memphis, and we started building a life together. And one of her girlfriends she hadn't talked to for a couple of years called her one day and said, Terry, I hear you have moved from Chicago. Where'd you go, Memphis? Yeah, Memphis. She said, why Memphis? She said, well, there's this guy down here. And she started telling her friend about me. And she said, well, it sounds very interesting. I hope to meet him sometime. And she started asking a lot of questions about me and my career and that sort of thing. Then she got around to the sordid question, has he got any money? And Terry said, well, he lives in a beautiful home. He's got a nice boat and a nice airplane. So he's doing okay. Now, I don't know if he's really rich or not, but I will say this. Don is a billionaire in friends. I told Terry later, I think that's the greatest compliment I've ever been paid. So I'm very thankful for all of my friendships. I call it relational capital. It's not capital to necessarily spend, it's capital to enjoy and to relish in and to just, do for your friends when you can. If one of them can do you a favor, don't be reluctant to ask from time to time. But there's just something about relational capital that makes for a more meaningful life. I tell people, years ago, I went through a divorce and I was really having a hard time. And I wasn't handling it very well. And my dauber was kind of down and I was in the glass is half empty mode. And I had somebody tell me one time, a friend called, he said, Don, hey, I know what you're going through. I want you to go to a reception with me. I think you'll meet some interesting people. He said, it's tomorrow night. Are you available? I said, well, I'm available, but I don't much think I want to go. He said, Don, this is one you need to do. You're going to meet some people you're going to be glad you met. I said, okay, I'll go. And I went to that reception and I met a lot of people, but there were about 3 people who ended up being key people in my career. One became a client, one became a confidant, and the other was just a very good friend who I've enjoyed a relationship for many, many years. Now, if I had not gone to that reception, I would have deprived myself of those three key relationships in my life. So if you're ever trying to decide whether you're going to go somewhere or not, unless there's a really good reason for safety purposes or something else for you not to go, I say go. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what kind of opportunity might come into your life. And when those opportunities come into our life, don't let them whiz by your head. Capture the opportunities. Act on them. I think the good Lord created us as superior beings because he wanted us to be the best we can be. So that's what we all need to work on. To be your best, you've got to learn to be your best. You've got to act to be your best, with proper behavior, and you got to be determined to be your best. That's that discipline play we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and there's a thread there that keeps coming up over and over. That it's what you do when you don't feel like doing it. Right? It's how you behave when you're not motivated, when you're sad, and you don't feel like going to a reception. It's how you handle those moments that can be the real turning point for you. And I always say your biggest breakthroughs are hidden in the places you don't want to go. But if you willingly go there, it'll be amazing what unfolds, what God unlocks for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that philosophy totally.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. So now this I think might be a tough question for you because you have so many extraordinary friends and people that you've met over the years. So is there one particular person that stands out in your mind that is like one of the coolest people you've ever met?
Wow, coolest people. There are so many.
I know.
So many.
I look at my library of books and I'm like, you are hanging out with all those people, which is amazing. So that in itself is extraordinary. I asked that question to Les Brown and he said it was Shaq O'Neal. And Les has met a million people, right? And he said it was Shaq, and I thought that was great. And Jim Cathcart said it was Walter Payton,
wow.
Which was interesting.
I'm going to say for me, it would be Dr. Kenneth McFarland. He was known as the Dean of American Speakers in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And he was definitely a mentor to me, but When I was a senior in college, I went to Dick Gardner's sales rally in Memphis, and Dr. McFarland was one of the speakers.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. He changed my life just in the period of a 1-hour speech.
Wow.
And Tim, here's the way I would describe it. He made me realize the unlimited opportunity associated with our free enterprise system. He made me feel better about myself and my potential to help others. He helped me to recognize opportunities, and he passionately got under my skin about Americanism and free enterprise. And I actually, during his speech, I got chills like a half a dozen times. I was almost overwhelmed.
Wow.
You know, they say goosebumps never lie. I got to tell you, I got the goosebumps that day. And when his speech was over, there was a break. And I went out into the lobby and I found Dick Gardner. And I walked up to him and I said, Mr. Gardner, I'm Don Hutson. I met you in Dr. Tonning's sales class when you gave your speech. And I graduate in 6 weeks and I want to go to work for you.
Wow.
And I'm so happy that I had the courage to do that as a wet behind the ears college kid.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, he said, can you meet me at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning for breakfast? And I did. And by 9:30, he'd hired me. Anyway, I graduated from college and I bought me a brand new 67 Grand Prix Pontiac coupe, paid for on time with a small down payment, took off to St. Louis for my straight commission sales job.
Wow.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow.
But Dr. McFarland was the precipitating event. My hearing him that day, the other speakers were also great, but McFarland changed my life. And he became a mentor, and I got to know him very well. And I remember a little later, Cavett Robert put me in the chairs to be the third third president of the National Speakers Association. And I remember we were trying to recruit all of the prominent speakers into NSA. And Cavett said, Don, you know Dr. McFarland better than the rest of us. You got to get him to join. I said, all right, I'll do my best. So I called him. I said, Dr. Mack, I just want you to know that the board and the executive committee of the National Speakers Association really, really wants you to join. We think it would do a lot for our profession. He said, well, Don, I got to tell you, I'm really not a good prospect because I'm just not a joiner. I'm just way too busy doing over 100 speeches a year and keeping up with my own life. And I said, well, Dr. Mack, I'm not trying to suggest that you need NSA, but NSA and its members desperately need you.
Woo. That
and
gave me the goosebumps.
Silence on the phone line. And he said, well, Don, if you put it that way, I'll join.
Oh my God.
And he joined the National Speakers Association.
That's great.
And he keynoted our convention in Louisville in 1978 and just blew everybody away.
Wow.
Got about a 3-minute standing ovation. See, that's the kind of mentor that can change a life, and can do it like that if you give them a chance.
Yeah.
So expose yourself to the people who you think can have an impact on your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're trying to decide, am I going to go to this or that? Go.
That is sound advice. So for everybody that's listening, oh my goodness, I hope you're taking notes on this, and there's so much. Now, you've got some pretty awesome programs. Your U.S. learning program that you have. You've got an upcoming writing program that you're doing. So how can people learn more about all the stuff that you're doing right now?
Well, I would say for our online programs, we have 4 different programs. They're all terrific. And go to donhutson.com, and you'll see in there where it says learning opportunities, and you can look through all that information. That'll give you like video clips from the program and all that sort of thing. And as far as the writing program, this is new. It's not even on the website, but we're starting our promotion on it in the coming next couple of weeks. So I'd say email me at don@donhutson.com, HUTSON, and I'll be glad to send you the information on it. They say that everybody's got at least one good book in them, Tim.
Yeah.
And I would challenge people to think about how can you make a contribution to the world by writing a good book, with some good information that can positively touch people's lives. You know, I have a newsletter. If they go to the website, they can also sign up for the newsletter. It's free.
Yes.
But I have, from time to time, I put in a legends issue where I talk about some of these greats I had the opportunity to meet. And you know what? I've just been so blessed with opportunities to meet some of the greatest people, some of those influential people. That's just been a real blessing. It's made me who I am today, and had a real influence on me. And you know, I try to have a similar influence on other people. But on the book writing, they say everybody's got at least one good book in them. I wrote about my legends in last week's newsletter, and I got more feedback from this thing. It was just a terrific excerpt from one from Dr. Peter Drucker and one from Elmer Letterman, one of the early sales trainers in America, who I met one time, and I was young and he was an old man, but we had a short visit, but it was very special. But what great opportunities there. And when you're gone and you think about what kind of legacy am I going to leave behind, well, your books that you write will live forever.
Well said.
So here's old Elmer Letterman still having a positive influence, right? And he's been gone for decades.
How about that? That's amazing. That's mesmerizing.
Let me tell you a great Brian Tracy story, and there's a takeaway here.
Okay.
At our speakers roundtable meeting, I think it was about 1998, we were at Silverado Country Club in the wine country of California.
Wow.
And we had our big Saturday evening deal. It's probably 33, 34 people. It's our 20 members plus emeritus plus some spouses. Anyway, we had cocktails, then a lovely dinner, and then after dinner, we generally kind of go around the room, and at least a half a dozen people, sometimes 8 or 10, will do a little 5-minute shtick or something. Well, this particular night, we didn't have too many volunteers, and I'm sitting at the table with Tracy. I said, Brian, get up and recite some Robert Service. Now, do you know who Robert Service is? The great Canadian poet, used to write ballads, and they were all about the Yukon and the oil rush. And I mean, it was just, you know, rugged people, rugged times. He said, man, I can't do that. I haven't recited any of those in years. And besides that, I've had a few glasses of wine. So he turned me down. So about 10 minutes later, I said, Brian, we're getting a lull here. Get up and do some Robert Service. He said, man, I can't do that tonight. I just can't. Had a few glasses of wine, can't do it. Anyway, about 10 minutes later, I said, Brian, it's your time to do some Robert Service recitation. He said, all right. And he got up, threw his chair back, walked around, looked at the group for about maybe 15 seconds of silence, and then he began this great Robert Service poem. It was so poignant, and he, for the next 18 to 20 minutes, recited this incredible poem about being in the Canadian Rockies during the oil rush. And it was the darndest thing. It gave me I'm getting chills just telling you the story.
Wow.
And here he said, I hadn't done any of that in years, and I've had a few glasses of wine, and I don't remember, blah, blah, blah. And he got up and gave a very flawless recitation of this incredible Robert Service poem. And everybody was blown away.
Oh, yeah, that's extraordinary. I'm getting chills, too. I mean, that's pretty astounding, really.
Yeah, he's really something.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that story. Yeah, I can believe that, you know, because he's so smart and he's so sharp. When he was describing his story of when he was young and you know, going across the Sahara Desert and all the things that he experienced, you know, the detail and he brought it to life. I felt like I was watching $100 million movie. You know, it was really amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you have all these incredible stories about, you know, all these, you know, amazing people and legends in the field and that you just call friends.
Well, right. You know, I really do have some great stories, but the fortunate thing for me, one of my luckiest breaks was I got into this business at age 21, right out of college as a salesman selling enrollments in seminars. Yeah. Where we were bringing in like Zig Ziglar, Bill Gove, Dr. Ken McFarland, people like that. And what a great opportunity for me to have met people like Elmer Wheeler. I met him in 1968, and he died about a month later. He was the guy who coined the phrase, "Don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle." And he was a stem winder sales motivator. He was great. And many other greats that are now long gone and only memories. I had a personal relationship with most of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. What an extraordinary opportunity to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. So last question for you, Don. If, with all the wisdom that you've learned, if you could go back through time and then give some tips to that 12-year-old boy that you once were, what advice would you give him?
Wow. Do the right thing, stay out of trouble. I needed to hear that when I was 12. Do the right thing, help other people, learn, grow, become what you're capable of becoming.
Yeah.
And then don't ever quit. I look at it like this, Tim, you never lose till you give up. Don't ever give up. Have the stick-to-itiveness, have the personal discipline, have the intestinal fortitude to keep on going. And if you have a downturn or you have an obstacle that comes before you, hey, overcome it. Keep on succeeding. Keep on going.
Woo! All right. That is awesome. That is so good. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Hutson. Oh my goodness. Don, this has been absolutely mesmerizing. There's so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this program today. I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely my pleasure, Tim. And you keep up the good work for yourself.
Oh, thank you, sir. I definitely will. So everybody, there you go. Holy cow, one of the greats, and just nugget after nugget of wisdom. So make sure you check out his training videos. Make sure you get on his newsletter. I've done that. The content is top notch. And then if you really want to improve your skills as an entrepreneur and as a negotiator, then get those 1-minute negotiator books and 1-minute entrepreneur books, because they really are packed full of really easy, powerful strategies that you can use that'll take you to that next level. And I'll make sure and send you more information on his upcoming writing program as well, because that's an awesome opportunity to learn from one of the legends of the industry. So make sure you share this with your friends. Make sure you write a review and spread this around, because this is pretty incredible stuff. And make sure to apply it and make your life mesmerizing. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Hey, would you like more free tips on how to be a mesmerizing leader? Then check out mesmerizingleadership.com and also hang out with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Tim Shurr. Thanks so much, and make your day a sure success. Hey, it's Tim Shurr. Would you like to learn my best secrets for how to be mesmerizing? Then head over to www.survivingtothriving.me. That's www.survivingtothriving.me. I'll see you there.